what's going on, folks? I'm getting a lot of questions about what types of leeches I like to tie and fish, and here is one of them. This is a black leech, and we're going to tie this with a little bit of marabou. It's a great pattern to fish on the San Juan. I also like to fish this in still water. You can tie this in all sorts of different variations. You could tie it on a jig hook. You could tie it with a bead head. You could tie it bigger. I'm going to tie this on a size 16 TMC 101. Let's not waste any time. Let's pop this one out of the vise and get to tying. I usually fish this in smaller sizes, but you could also tie it in, size 8. There's giant streamers that use marabou. But I like to fish this particular pattern in a smaller size. Really good for alpine lakes, really good for double leech rigs if you do that kind of thing. I'm just going to start this off with a little bit of black Vivis, and our second material, our most important material, a little bit of black marabou. So what I like to do here is to pretty much just take my fingertips and pinch this off of the stem. There's no particular perfect amount, just as long as it looks right. You don't want it to be too sparse, but you also don't want it to be too thick to the point where it affects how well it's sinking. So I just went ahead and I pinched off a good number, and that looks about right. Remember, the thing about marabou is it's going to get super thin once it does get wet. Obviously it's going to look different in the water, but all I want to do is just kind of comb this out and get some of those extra fibers out. Now I only want this to stick out probably a little more than the shank length on this hook, so I'm going to measure that out and then add just a little bit extra. Now the reason for that is because I don't want to get too many short strikes. I'm going to start with one kind of light wrap, and then I'm going to start to wrench down. And the reason that you want to pick this off from the stem is because we're actually going to use this part, and we're going to twist it forward. I'm going to drop my thread down. At this point, what I like to do, you can use a material holder. I just like to use my fingers, and I'm just going to spin this going upwards. So I'm just spinning it as I pull upwards, and then once it gets a little bit tight, once there's a little bit of a rope kind of formed, I'm just going to wrap this all the way up. And I don't want to go all the way up to the hook eye because we still have a couple things to add. Right about there should be good. Leave a good hook eye and half length before you get to the head. And really kind of wrench down on the head just to make sure that doesn't fall apart on you. Trim this off real close to the shank, and we are ready for our next step. So with whatever marabou that you still have left, go ahead and pull off another similar size piece. Just grab a finger length pinch, pull that all the way off. Then at this point, what I like to do is I like to line the ends of this new piece up with the bottom, and then I like to pull it forward just a little bit. I want the tail to stick out a little bit further than this top portion that I'm going to tie in. And on camera, it might look a little bit exaggerated. This leech might look like it's a little bit longer than it actually is, but it's really not. You really want to keep this sparse. You don't want it to be super long. I'm just going to tie that in, give a couple hard wraps, then trim that excess off. Make sure you get all of that. So at this point, just make those little touching wraps at the top. You can see I got rid of all of those little fibers that were sticking out. And if you want to, you can be completely done right here. You can whip finish and be done. But this fly is not going to be completed without a little bit of dubbing on the head. I'm going to keep this super simple. I'm not going to go through the trouble of making a dubbing loop. I'm just going to dub this straight onto the thread. You don't need very much. And I'm just going to comb those fibers back as I wind this down. Get in here with my whip finish tool. 2 or 3 two-turn whip finishes should be plenty for this. And then what I like to do here, I don't have a brush on me, so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to use my whip finish tool to pull some of those flashy strands out. You don't have to go crazy with it. If we really wanted these to poke out, we could have used a dubbing loop, but I want to keep the flash in this a little bit more subtle. This isn't a super flashy leech pattern. You just want a little bit of that stuff poking out, just like that, right at the head. And boom, you are done. That is a marabou leech. Takes about a minute to tie these. Once you get good at it, play around with the lengths. You can tie this on all sorts of different size hooks, different colors. You can mix and match marabou. Do whatever you like. This is a great little pattern to fish pretty much year round. Super buggy looking leech. Tie some up. I think you'll like them. Thank you guys for watching. We'll see you in the next video.